So we have yet another edition of Confused Americans in Europe, otherwise known as American living vicariously through other Americans as they travel to Europe. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this first video, Culture Shock as American Living in Sweden.
Since moving to Europe, there's one thing I can't get used to. But first, my name's Brittany. I'm currently a nanny living in Stockholm, Sweden. That is dressing up. Like, for example, leisure wear does not exist in Europe. People aren't.
I'm not gonna lie, that was one of the first culture shocks I observed as well when I went to Spain specifically, and especially when I went to Zurich. I spent 22 hours in Zurich. That was all I needed to reassess every single fashion decision I'd ever made in my whole life. Because let me tell you, those people in Zurich are dressed to the nines all the time. But really, everywhere I've been in Europe, people were dressed substantially better than pretty much anywhere I'd been to in the US other than New York. And New York is primarily a well-dressed city because of the European influence. So I don't know what it is about Europe, but people in Europe can dress extremely, extremely well. And if you know the answer to this, if you know why this is the case, please let me know in the comments so I can steal your secret sauce.
Aren't in the cute sweat sets or their leggings and going and getting the kids from school. Like, I'm a nanny and I go and pick up the kids, and during the days I'm either active or working from home unless I have something planned. I'm not gonna just wear jeans. Can't shake that out of my American self that like sweatpants are not an outfit.
So I'm not gonna lie, that's what I'm wearing right now, and that's what most of my outfits look like in this day and age. Granted, I'm in Thailand, it's hot, I'm thinking more in terms of practicality, but I'm wearing a lot of sweatpants, t-shirts, tank tops, things of that nature. I think maybe part of the reason why Europeans dress better is because cities are so much more walkable and you're just around people more, that you feel more inclined to dress better because you know people are going to see your outfit more. I don't know if that's actually the case. Again, I'm going to defer to your expertise because you're more than likely European, but that's my personal theory. On to the next video.
You know what, three things still shock me every time I come to the UK. As a southerner from America, the UK is literally the same size as my home state of North Carolina. Back home, you can drive 6 hours and still be arguing over which is the best barbecue.
And you know what? Just to kind of go on a tangent here, on the topic of fashion, yes, people in America actually do wear cowboy hats, unironically, out and about in the wild. And hey, I'm not here to judge his fashion sense or whatever. I just found that really interesting that Europeans think that that's not actually a thing. I remember my girlfriend when she found out that people really actually wear full on, not just cowboy hats, but the full on getup with the button up shirt, the jeans, boot cut with the cowboy boots. People really go to the mall dressed like this. They go to the grocery store dressed like this. She couldn't believe it. But yes, people really actually wear this.
You vinegar based or mustard based? If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Vinegar based all the way. Over here, you're gonna cross about 3 different countries, hear about 100 different accents, and it just blows my mind. This next one has to do with these, right?
And that's pretty interesting because I know it's kind of a meme that Europeans can't comprehend the size of the US, but honestly, that is kind of a real thing because my girlfriend and I, we took a road trip across the US earlier this year. We drove from Texas to Washington, D.C., D.C. to Boston, Boston to Chicago, Chicago to L.A., L.A. back to Dallas. And basically, we crossed the distance of Moscow, Russia to Lisbon, Portugal 2 times over during that trip. We did that in around 3.5 weeks, maybe a little under 4 weeks. The average European, I think, is not really going to be driving those kinds of distances because flights are so much cheaper, and furthermore, you have so much more in close proximity that there's really no need to do that. But I think this is part of the reason why Americans tend to be very, very close-minded in some places, is because they're literally trapped in these bubbles of just homogenous lack of variety. And that has to have a very, very strong impact and influence on how you think. Hence why you see that the middle of the country tends to be a lot more conservative in their line of thinking, whereas coastal cities with more access and exposure to other cultures tend to be more liberal and progressive in their line of thinking.
Right here, these skeleton keys, something we don't see in America at all. We've only ever seen them in like Harry Potter films, and that's what I feel like every time I use one. All right.
That must just be a UK thing, because I don't recall using a key like that in the Netherlands. Wait, hold on, I have to see that again.
I'm in like Harry Potter, we don't see in America here.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually seen a functional key that looked like that in person. Let me know if they use keys like that in your country, in Europe, because again, I've just never really seen that before. So that must be a UK thing. It's definitely not a Dutch thing though, to my knowledge. Probably because the buildings in some of these European cities and countries tend to be a lot older. So I guess it makes sense that you would have keys that look older as well.
And that's what I feel like every time I use one. All right, here's the last one. The word shag nearly ended my career. In North Carolina, shagging is a type of dance that's lighthearted, typically done around the beach. A lot of the older generation tend to do it more. You know?
So in Dallas, a shag is a haircut. I'm gonna put a picture on the screen right now. Yes, I know it is hideous, it's horrible. It's one of my least favorite things about Dallas culture. And honestly, it's one of the few things that Dallas culture can truly claim as its own. And it's that. It's just...
You can only imagine, as a Brit, the chaos that entailed after I said, guys, do y'all ever go shagging? Or have you guys ever heard of shagging? Parents shag all the time. Just imagine the look on their faces when I said that.
If you're British, or if you're familiar with British vernacular, what does shag mean to British people? Comment down below, because I have no idea what it means in that context. I didn't even know what it meant in the context of being a North Carolinian. So I have no idea what that means. On to the next video. Beauty standards in Germany are very different.
I'm a foreigner living in Germany, and one of the things that I noticed quickly once I moved here was how different the beauty standards are in Germany versus back home, which is Canada. One of the first things I noticed is that girls here really like to take more of a natural approach when it comes to their beauty routines, and if they do get any sort of procedure done, it's to make it seem as natural as possible.
I do feel like plastic surgery is a lot more common in the US. I don't know how the US compares to Canada in this regard, but I'd imagine they're more similar to each other than Canada is to any European country. But you go to places like Miami or LA, you're gonna see a lot of women who have pretty significant and obvious work done. And they are parading it around like it's nothing. I mean, even men with veneers and things like that, I didn't really see a whole lot of that in Europe, thankfully. I feel like in Europe, a lot of it is just about being understated and kind of maximizing what you have, if that makes sense.
Whereas back home, girls don't shy away from looking a little extra. They wear a little bit more makeup. They do a lot more to their face in terms of fillers, you know, the big lips, the bold lashes, and that's just very different than Germany.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I don't think I saw any women in Europe who had those artificially long lashes. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying I don't think I saw any of them. That's a big thing back home, at least in Texas. I don't know about other parts of the US, but in Texas, women are most certainly wearing those artificially long lashes. Why? I have no idea, because you have to take them off eventually. I guess to each their own.
Even for myself, I love to color my hair. I like to get highlights. I like to get my nails done, things like that. I am Colombian, so I feel like I have a bit of that Colombianness to me as well. But yeah, it's just not that common here. And it did take me actually a long time to find someone to do my hair properly here. For the first few years of living here, I used to fly to London to get my hair done. I know it sounds crazy, but...
What type of money does she have to be flying across international boundaries just to get her hair done? I mean, I guess to my point earlier, you have much cheaper flights and cheaper train tickets and things of that nature to go from Germany to the UK or whatever, but I don't think I would ever catch a flight anywhere to get my hair done. Ever. I don't care how much money I have.
But I just felt like I could get the type of style that over there that I would back home, and it just took me many years to find something similar here. That being said, I'm not judging one country versus the other. I don't think one is better than the other. It's really all about the different cultures and how people do things in different countries. That's personally what I find most fascinating about being able to live abroad, because I get to experience two different types of worlds, two different cultures, adapt little bits and pieces from each place that I'm from. At the end of the day, just do you, do whatever makes you happy, and if you like to be a little extra in your day-to-day life, or if you don't, that's cool.
Yeah, to her point, to each their own, but I know that as a man myself, one of the things that I really like about my girlfriend's aesthetic is the fact that she's not extra. She's not doing all of this peacocking, so to speak, to make herself stand out amongst the crowd. She just looks good the way she is. And I don't know if that's just a me thing, or if most men are like that and women are just doing the peacocking thing for no reason, or if they're doing it just for themselves. But I do feel like in the US, really both women and men kind of go that extra mile just to stand out. I think I've mentioned this in the past, but in the US, when a guy has some money, especially within the black community, a lot of times they're gonna go and get a diamond chain, they're gonna get a bust down watch, right? If they're really rolling like that, they might get a plain Jane watch, but a lot of times it's gonna be something loud. They're gonna have designer clothes with the logos on them because they want people to know that they have money. I fell into this trap myself at one point. I bought these Balenciagas that had the word Balenciaga on them probably 80 times per shoe. Spent $1,000 on them. Took them back to the store the next day because I realized how idiotic of a decision it actually was. Thankfully, I got my money back for that and I learned my lesson. A lot of people don't. And that's one thing that I really enjoyed about the Netherlands was that there isn't that societal pressure to showcase your success. And I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but just in terms of beauty standards, for men and women alike, or I won't even say beauty standards, but desirability standards, it's like the game is played entirely differently. And maybe I'm being a bit idealistic in retrospect, but I don't ever recall seeing a bust down anything when I was in Europe, including Zurich, which we want to talk about wealth. People in Zurich have the bag. So could be wrong, but just based on my experience, it's just a whole different culture. On to the next video. Being an American in France is like a complete 180 from your regular life.
Being an American in France is like a complete 180 from your regular life. So here are some of my culture shocks as an American 1 month into studying abroad in France. The first one has to be that there's no dryers and the washing machine is in the kitchen. Hold on, let me show you this. Here's all our clothes just out drying. And it takes at least a day for all of your clothes to be dry.
I feel like maybe she'd come away better putting the drying rack outside in the sunlight. I don't know. Personally, I use a dryer. We have dryers here in Thailand, but when I was in Spain, that was a culture shock that I had as well, was I saw a lot of people hanging their clothes on the balconies. I was like, man, what if they get a good gust of wind and their clothes just fly off the balcony? But I guess that doesn't really happen because everyone does it. But Spain has a very warm and sunny climate, at least Valencia does. I don't really know what the climate is like in France, but I don't know. I just have to imagine that on a sunny day like that, maybe she should put the clothes rack outside if she wants the clothes to dry sooner.
And the apartment elevators are miniature. Like that.
That reminds me, my girlfriend, she basically, for her internship, was checking people into Airbnbs and things like that in Valencia. And she got stuck in one of those elevators, an elevator kind of like this one right here, for around 45 minutes to an hour. And she doesn't like elevators. I don't like elevators either. And that is precisely why. That sounds like a horrible experience. But, I mean, if it gets you from point A to point B, then, hey, that's all that matters. In that particular case, it didn't do that. It didn't do its job. But especially in older buildings, having an elevator at all is a luxury. because that is not necessarily a guarantee.
Like, that can comfortably fit one person. But there have been times where other people will get in with you and you just feel so uncomfortable because you're way too close to them. And the cigarettes.
But I mean, it's not like you're gonna be in the elevator for 30 minutes unless, again, you get stuck like my girlfriend did. I'm laughing now, but at the time I was probably pretty spooked as well. But you're probably gonna be in the elevator a maximum of 20 seconds. 20 seconds. It's not like that's an elevator in a skyscraper. The building probably has 6 or 7 floors. You'll be all right.
Pretty much every single person smokes here. Like, everyone. Even in school, our classes are 3 hours long, but we have a 15-minute break right in the middle, and every single student gets up and goes to smoke for that 15 minutes. It's like a smoke break being built into the class time. And then going to what's deemed acceptable to wear outside.
So with the smoking thing, I still don't really have a good grasp on why this is the case, why it seems like Europeans tend to favor smoking cigarettes. That's one part of European culture that I do not intend on bringing into my own life. But again, to each their own. I think, if I recall correctly, someone had commented that it was because of marketing. Cigarettes were just marketed to people throughout the years, and that's why people smoke. But it's not like people don't know the adverse health effects. So I need a more descriptive explanation as to why people in Europe smoke so much more, at least anecdotally, than Americans. So if you know the answer, then please elaborate in the comments.
Wearing something like this, like leggings and a sweatshirt, no, unacceptable. If you're not dressed nice, everyone's like, that's an American.
Especially in a place like France or Italy, I can only imagine how nice they're dressed. But this outfit right here, I feel like this is fairly common for American women. American women love wearing leggings out and about. They love wearing leggings. They love wearing a sweater, especially in the cooler months. Again, this is the pot calling the kettle black because, I mean, this is what my daily attire looks like as well. But I just take it as an opportunity to just step my game up in that regard. Being surrounded by people who all dress very nicely, that's going to rub off on you. So although it can be a bit inconvenient when you have to really put that thought into your outfits, once you get rid of all the clothes that aren't really nice and you replace those clothes with nice clothes, then you can basically just reach into your wardrobe with the blindfold on and pull out a nice outfit.